I am the rare book curator of this library, and we are standing in the Mark Twain room. This is a room that opened to the public in 1995 for dual purposes. The first and foremost purpose was to celebrate the fact that the manuscript was reunited, came together. An entire half of the manuscript, once thought lost, was found and was rightfully turned over to the library after a little bit of litigation. But and then the other thing that we like to celebrate in this room is the somewhat little known fact that Mark Twain actually lived here in Buffalo. So items around this room are all selected with that purpose in mind. And right behind me there is the trunk in which the second half of the manuscript actually was the first half in terms of chapters. The other half of the manuscript was discovered in 1991. It turned up in this trunk in Hollywood, California, in the residence of the former curator of the Young Men's Association's grandchildren's house. It was must have been in his possession when he planned eventually to have the entire manuscript bound. There's a lot of debate about what his true intentions were, but we feel that that probably is true, that he was intending to have it bound because he had the first installment of Leaves bound together. So he was probably figuring out how to disbind those earlier leaves and then how, in fact, to bind two different size sheets in one binding, or maybe two bindings, and make sense of it. So this room is climate controlled. It is open all the hours of the library. We invite everybody to come here and learn about Mark Twain's time here in Buffalo and to see some of the manuscript leaves, which are normally on display at the center of the room. Currently, they're taking a little hiatus. They're being conserved, being rehoused, and they're being digitized. And this is great progress because we want to make sure that those leaves last forever, as we promised Mark Twain they would. When James Fraser Gluck, the curator of the Young Men's Association, this library's predecessor, wrote to him on letterhead and asked if he would please entrust his manuscript to the library. Clemens wrote and he agreed to the idea, and he eventually turned over an installment of some 487 leaves, small fraction of the 1,361 leaves that there were in total. He later wrote a letter that he thought maybe the balance of the leaves were destroyed at the printers, and then lo and behold, another installment of some 200 leaves showed up, and then there was nothing. Crickets. Basically, there was a letter that was discovered that suggested that the first half of the manuscript had come to the library, and that was between James Fraser Gluck and Clemens, as all the other letters that we knew about were. But what we didn't know about was the letter between Josephus Larned, who was the head of the Young Men's Association. He wrote to Twain's manager at the time, and that was when the leaves actually did come to Gluck, essentially, or to the library, and Gluck spirited them away. Not really sure how that unfolded exactly, but so they were in Gluck's possession, but he died a young man in travels, and it was rather unexpected. When his widow eventually packed up all of their belongings and moved out to California, she must have had the manuscript in her possession. Eventually they get passed down through the family inheritance, and the granddaughters discover those leaves and realize what they have, and they enlist the help of the auction house and authenticate this, in fact, is Mark Twain's writing, and these are actual leaves from Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. And they're going to sell them. They're going to auction off this manuscript. Well, when the Twain papers at Berkeley caught wind of that, they informed this library right away because they knew that Twain had in fact intended the manuscript to belong to the library. So many lawyers became involved. There was about a 17-month litigation period to sort out what rightfully goes where, and fortunately the manuscript was deemed rightfully belonging to the library. So then this space that we're in, formerly a smoking lounge, became the Mark Twain room that we are standing in right now.